What's up, guys? Nick from the Average Biker Garage, back here with you with another episode of the Average Biker Podcast. I gotta say, again, I'm sure you guys, well, maybe you're not sick of hearing it, but if you're sick of hearing it, I'm not sorry. Big thanks for the views on the YouTube channel. We're getting slow and steady growth over there. The subscriber count's going up, the view counts. I don't know what happened in the last couple of days, but the view counts have just been through the roof. So thank you for that. I truly appreciate it. Make sure to go over there. If you haven't been checking it out, you should go over there, check it out. Share the videos, like the videos, comment on the videos. I usually reply to every comment that y'all post over there. So I again just appreciate it. Very humbling. Again, big thanks on the downloads and the listens and the follows for the podcast. The downloads are slowly increasing. The listens are increasing. We got people all over the world are listening, and that's crazy. That is really mind-blowing that there are people in different countries listening to this, and it's very cool. So if you're out there, there's one guy in Germany, I think he's downloaded every episode. So yeah, man, if you're out there listening to this, thank you. I appreciate it. So today's episode is going to be a little different than the other episodes. It's not going to be totally motorcycle centric. And if you listen to the pilot episode, I had talked about how I didn't really want this to be just motorcycle centric, because I'm not just into motorcycles. I'm into cars and trucks and pretty much everything with an engine. And today's guest isn't all about bikes either. He dabbles in motorcycles a little bit, and we'll get into that. So my guest today is one of my best friends, Tyler Pedersen. And as I was saying, we cover a range of topics from bikes and cars to business ventures and day trading. And I'm pretty sure I've got him talked into becoming a life coach now too. I mean, this guy's so damn busy with all of his other ventures. I think he can find some time there to maybe be my personal life coach, because he dropped some knowledge on me in this episode, and flipped the script a little bit towards the end of the show, and it was really cool. So he hosts his own podcasts about trading and crypto and stuff like that over there on YouTube. And he also writes a newsletter talking about it, just giving his predictions. He does not give financial advice, but he just gives out his predictions. So I'll post links to all that stuff. Post links. We talk about his race team and stuff. I'll post links to that too. So make sure you guys are supporting our guests, going over and giving them a follow and a like, and just checking them out and telling them that you heard about them on the Average Biker Garage podcast. So I'm truly glad I get to call him a friend, and I'm grateful that he came on the show for me. So I'm sure you guys will really enjoy this episode too. So without further ado, here's my buddy, Tyler Pedersen. Cool. All right. So introduce yourself, name, age, location. You don't have to tell everyone where you're at if you don't want to.
Yeah, my name is Tyler Pedersen. I'm 36, based out of Northwest Ohio.
And my podcast is usually motorcycle centric. You're not really a motorcycle guy yet, right?
No, and that's why I was surprised when you wanted me to come on the podcast, because no experience in motorcycles yet. When I was go ahead.
That's not true necessarily. Okay, but for everyone else listening, this is one of my best friends. So I know a little bit of his backstory. I'm going to try and get it out of him. You used to ride dirt bikes, didn't you?
Yeah, so that's where I was gonna go. So in high school, so I think it was about eighth grade or so, eighth or ninth grade. We had 40 acres of land, my mom and stepdad, and my stepbrothers were really into dirt bikes, and I was like, man, this seems pretty cool. And so I asked my mom if we can go get a dirt bike. So she's like, yeah. So her and my stepdad, we go to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we go to this guy's house, and it's a YZ 250, two stroke and everything. To just start it up. I have no clue what I'm looking at. I'm a kid at this time. My stepdad kind of is mechanically inclined and stuff, so he kind of knows what he's looking at. It's got like an FMF pipe and all this other stuff on it. So I think it was like $950 that we paid him. Go and I start ripping around the yard with it. I didn't realize what the power band was on a two-stroke until I ripped it, and I pretty much flipped off the back of it in my yard. And then I figured out, they're very throttle sensitive when you get high up in the RPMs on those two-stroke dirt bikes. So that was an experience, and it was probably a couple days into me riding that, I dumped it in my yard, and it wouldn't refire. I found out that the engine needed overhauled. Took it up to the guy up in Coldwater there. I think Romaine or what's that guy's name? They did a lot of racing anyway.
Romine?
No, Stanton. I think. Yeah. No, I think Romine or Stanton maybe rebuilt it. Anyway, I think it was Stanton's shop that went and rebuilt it, and then got it going again. And then I went to my first race up at Log Road, and I took my dad with me. We went and hung out, and I was like, man, this seems like a lot of fun. I think I can do this. So I go back and talk to my mom, and I was like, hey, can I start doing this? And she's like, well, you got to choose football or dirt bikes, Tyler. I can't afford both right now. So I said, man, this sucks, because I really enjoyed football. And so, as you know, I chose the football route, and then I rode dirt bikes kind of just for fun and as a hobby from there on out. So
Star fucking quarterback, running back. Motherfucker was throwing passes to himself. It was crazy.
Not really, but it was good time. I had fun. So we had fun. So
yeah, Log Road's well, I guess it's kind of a local track for us. But so you never raced up there?
No, I never raced. I actually never did a track day. The only track I actually got on was Ridenauer Acres. So Jake Ridenauer. So our buddy Josh Baldwin, he was big in the dirt bikes, and so he's like, hey, let's go ride at Ridenauer's racetrack. And I was like, that's cool. It was like 10 minutes up the road from where I lived, and went and did that and had a lot of fun. I think I cased it like on like a kind of a tabletop jump and stuff, and had fun doing it. But that was the only time I got on track, and then just kind of fizzled out. I sold the dirt bike and stuff, and just ended up moving on from that, and just started just really getting into sports later into the high school years. So kind of just went on its wayside.
So I've never been to Jake's track, but from what I've heard of people that have been there, they say it's a pretty serious track. Like, he doesn't fuck around.
Dude, 100%. I mean, he's got everything there, and he's got the land, and it was a really, it's a good track for people locally. So I think it's a good experience for anyone who's into dirt bikes and stuff like that in the Angola area. It's a really good place. So
sweet. Yeah, I don't know anyone in the Angola area that listens yet, but hopefully soon.
They're coming.
So yeah, and I don't necessarily want this to be the podcast to be motorcycle centric, because I'm into cars and shit too, and that's how we started hanging out. So after when did you start getting into cars?
Yeah, so I think the turning point for cars was the first Fast and Furious. Went again with my stepbrothers and my parents. We all went to see the Fast and Furious in theaters, and I really enjoyed the movie. I really enjoyed the cars. I was a big person who liked the aesthetics of the cars, the ground effects, the lights. all that cool stuff back in the day. So
We're dating
go ahead.
ourselves right now talking about
Yeah,
Fast and the Furious. Yeah.
the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was really like, man, that looks pretty cool. So as I was getting ready to get my first car, I worked at the local go-kart track and earning some money to get a car. And so when it was time to get a car, I found a 1995 Eagle Talon, and it was front wheel drive, automatic, really car enthusiast, let me tell you. And and I was like, hey, this looks like the Eclipse. So for people who don't know, like the Talon looks like the Eclipse, and I was like, hey, I really like the look of it and stuff like that. So I got it, and then I started working a double job. So I started working at the go-kart track, and then I worked during the summer at my dad's construction company in the yard, and just saved a whole bunch of money. And I remember ordering these 17-inch white wheels because I thought they looked really cool against the green paint, and low profile tires. And I remember my dad helping me at the construction shop, like putting them on. And like from there, I was like hooked on cars. And where you enter the picture on cars is we were talking, I think, at school, and I was like, hey man, I want to do an exhaust in my car. You're like, okay, yeah, just come on over. We can do it over at my house. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I ordered the exhaust. We start, we go over to your parents' house. And I think it was like a Friday night, and we start getting into it. And I hope your dad listens, because I think we used all of his tools. We broke a whole bunch of shit. We drank a whole bunch of beer, and we ended up getting the Sawzall out. We did a whole bunch of stuff, but we ended up getting it done. And I don't remember what all that included, but we ended up getting the exhaust hung and stuff. And it was a good time in high school, let me tell you. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we dulled every single one of his drill bits. Ruined his Sawzall. I remember him coming around the corner and he going, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" And putting the exhaust in this car, Dad. I think he just shook his head and turned around and walked away.
yeah, and it might have been I don't know if it was on one night ordeal or if I had to stay the night the next. I don't remember, but that's like it's been a while ago. But I just remember we were just in there just hammering stuff out and breaking stuff, and you're like, oh shit, my dad's gonna be pissed. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, he got over it eventually, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So
let's see. That was high school, and then did you do anything in college? Is that when you got into racing?
no, so in college, so yeah, as I was leaving for college, I wanted to get rid of the Talon, so I got rid of the Talon, and I ended up picking up a 1998 Honda Civic. Remember the orange Civic?
No, dude, you've had a lot of cars. I've had a lot of cars. I don't remember all of mine.
So I picked up a 98 Civic as kind of like a graduation present, get to go to college type present. And it was orange. It had ground effects. It had everything I wanted for like the Fast and Furious. It looked really cool and stuff. And then I was like, I met a buddy up in Grand Rapids. His name's Tony. We're still friends today. And I remember going up there to do a turbo install in his car. He had like a D16 Honda that he was turboing, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. So we got it. I spent the weekend up there, and again, drinking a lot of beer and working around cars, and just had a lot of fun around the atmosphere and the environment. And I felt like that's kind of where I belonged, just kind of working on cars and stuff. And so I started getting around the stuff that I wanted to do on my car to do a turbo. But first, I wanted to get rid of the stock motor. It still had a 98 motor in it. So I went and looked up the SI motor. So I replaced the motor with the SI motor, B16A2. And then I started going with the turbo platform, started piecing like a front mount intercooler. I grabbed injectors off of a DSM car because they actually made a kit where you can wire in the injectors for those to be able to make it work on the turbo. Got a big, not too big. It was Turbonetics turbo. and really got that ready to go to get it dialed in. And I ended up getting it turboed and I think making 10 pounds of boost and just had a lot of fun with it. And then I was really looking for something different because the car was kind of breaking down a little bit. And I was like, hey, I just need to get out of this. So I ended up trading that for a Subaru RS, the 2.5 RS. And so I got the 2.5 RS, and then I ended up getting a 2005 Subaru WX STI in 2010 as like a college graduation present to myself.
Is that the Subaru that's in your shed right now that you're going to sell me?
Yeah, yeah, that is the Subaru that's in my shed right now that I'm not going to sell you.
Eventually, I'll talk you out of it.
Exactly. So
when, see, I think I was away at school or, nose deep in some drugs or something because we've lost contact with each other for a minute, and then I remember hitting you up to go to a strip club or something when you were living in Fort Wayne, and I came down there and I walked into one of your bedrooms and you had an engine on a stand and then like multiple pieces of engines laying around. And it was like, what the hell's going on here? And you're like, oh, I'm rebuilding engines in my bedroom. And it's like, we went from dulling drill bits in my dad's garage to you doing full engine rebuilds in like 3 years. So what the hell happened there?
yeah, so when I got the 05 STI, like the funny dude, I have so many funny car stories. So again, my dad and I drove to Chicago to go get it, and I had the one I wanted. So I had a check written out, like a cashier's check written out of the dealership and everything, like that I wanted. I knew I was gonna go get this car. Then I drove it. I'm like, man, this car sucks. Like I don't want it. Like my dad's like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, well, there's another one down the road that I want to see too. So we end up, you know, test driving this other one, and it's great. I like it. So my dad then like, hey, I'll take care of it. Just pay me back, whatever, because they wouldn't accept my check because it was made out to a different dealership. So I was like, all right, sounds good. So we sit at the dealership for hours and hours and hours. We end up driving back from Chicago with it. I find out like probably 2 weeks later when I hook up with some of the Subaru guys in Fort Wayne, like that it was only rear wheel drive, which I had no clue because they're supposed to be all wheel drive. This is how novice of like me into cars I was. I didn't know what I didn't know, and so they're like, "Hey, I think it's only rear wheel drive." So I'm like, "No wonder this is so much fun." And the back end kind of goes out of control a lot and blah blah blah. And so I finally figured out, hey, I'm going to do this transmission install with some other friends, and so I started really working on the car. And so I went from, doing So what happened was I found out like the axles in the front of the transmission, it was so weird. They got sheared off like quarter size, like the size of a quarter and thickness of probably 3/4 together. They got sheared off. And so the front wheels weren't really like the front axles weren't doing anything. So it was really just needed axles and I still had a good transmission, but I knew I had a backup transmission. So I installed that. And so as I go through this, I wanted to like upgrade the sway bar. I wanted to upgrade the suspension on it. So I started doing all these things with some help of friends locally. And then I started autocrossing in the parking lot and really figuring out like how to tune the cars and tune the suspension and figure that out. And then a couple of buddies like, hey, let's go do this endurance racing stuff. So then we go look at a Dodge Shadow, a 99.2 Dodge Shadow, and we got to figure out how to get this thing on track and stuff. So it was really trial and error for me and learning from some other people until I started like figuring out, hey, I know how to do this stuff on my own. And I just started, it was like hands-on experience with just some good people in town to learn from. So that's kind of how I did it, from not knowing anything to like, helping rebuild engines or, installing a clutch. So it was really like I advanced kind of my skills pretty quickly that way.
Yeah, no, you definitely did. Like I said, I was caught off. I can't rebuild a fucking engine. I don't know shit about engines like that. So I was really, really impressed when I walked in and saw all that. And you're like, oh yeah, I've just been doing this. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So, but you said you got into the what autocross?
Yeah, I've gotten autocross pretty quickly. So I went through
What is
go on.
autocross?
Yeah, autocross is just you'll hear it called solo, but it's essentially a time trial in a parking lot. So it's an SCCA Sports Car Club of America sanctioned event, and they're put on through all the regions in the United States. And what you do, it's there's a course with cones, and there's all these different classes based on like modifications you have in your car. So you can go from a stock, you know, Honda Civic to like a modded out Chevy Camaro with no top on it on, you know, 375 wide Hoosiers, right? So there's a class for everyone, and it's just you on a time trial basis. So runs can differ from 45 seconds to over a minute, and you usually get 3 to 5 runs, and your best time of the day wins. And if you hit a cone, there's a penalty and stuff like that. So it was really a way to be able to hone your skills, and they're super cheap. It's $50 to be a member for the year, I believe, and then like for the weekend, like it's $30 to $50 for the event. So for me, it was a really cheap way to start getting into racing and understand that. And I brought my dad out to a lot of the events, and really he enjoyed riding in the passenger side, and it was a way that him and I were able to bond as well. So it was just a good way to get into racing, and that's how I met all these people to go endurance racing with. So I went out to on the autocross stuff. I went out to the nationals a couple times. One in my STI, another in a Mini Cooper with my friend Alan. But it's out in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it's at this big airport. And people take it serious. It's amazing how much money gets wrapped up into just a couple 60-second runs. It's almost like the NHRA drags, where they go through like an engine every like pole and stuff down, or like
Mm.
an engine doesn't last that long. So like even those people like trying to race competitively, like it's another level where it's just crazy how another level that some of these people are. So
And some of those guys take that parking lot racing real serious then, huh?
yeah, 100%. And like there's no money involved, right? Like you can win some free tires, and you can win some free brake pads and some stuff. Maybe a little money's involved, but it's like, there's not payouts and stuff, and it's people just doing it because they like to do it and be competitive. And so the only person that has gone that I know of, well, there's a couple of people that's gone to auto racing to pro racing, but there's one guy, his name's Tom O'Gorman, where just absolute freak of a driver, went from autocrossing, ended up GoFunding himself into a pro ride, and then I think he ended up winning one of the races during the year. So just absolute animal behind the wheel. And I would say there's less than 2% of the people at autocross happens to. So
Yeah. Well, you ended up moving up. Not you don't do autocross anymore, do you?
no, it was so probably around 2013. Well, 2012 is when we first bought the Dodge Shadow. And I was just going to go do it for fun, to go race tracks that I want to go race in the United States. I took my STI down to Putnam Park in Indianapolis, and it's a racetrack down there, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I was like, I got way more seat time, and I was able to challenge myself a little bit better. And like I was good at autocross, but it was challenging to see the cones, and I just saw a sea of cones a lot of times and stuff like that. So really being on a wider track and seeing the corners and the layout like really helped my sight. So I was like, I was really happy to hear some people wanted to go endurance racing and stuff. So at that time I was trying to do both, and then slowly fading where I was doing a lot more endurance racing than autocross. And then I slowly just stopped going and just mainly focused on endurance racing.
Now, with the endurance racing, with autocross, it's just you against the clock. It's just you running by yourself, right?
Yeah, and then you have other people in your class that you'll go, that you compare your times with, and then fastest time of the day in your class wins. You win a glass mug, to drink beer out of, or water, or whatever you want to do. So.
But then with the endurance racing, there's actually other people out on the track. It's like a race.
Yeah, so the endurance racing, how that's set up is, it's 7 hours. Let's say it's a 7 hour endurance race. Green flag goes at 8 o'clock. 7 hours later, green flag, or the flag finishes. You're done racing after 7 hours. So definitely is different. You can have anywhere from 50 to 100 cars on the track at the same time with you. So you got to learn how to pass people, and it just takes a different skill set to race on track than it does autocrossing.
Your dog wants to be on the episode too.
Yeah, I apologize. The dog is barking out here. I'm outside of my house. I apologize for that.
I'm surprised my two haven't gone ape shit yet. So, so with the endurance racing, are you still doing that?
Yeah, we're still doing it today. So, this is my 11th year doing at least a track in the season. So it's amazing. I've been doing this thing for 11 years. So,
did you have a role in the actual league? Like, I want to say one time I was over there working on the car with you, and you had to be on a call with some of the like the president of the race league or something like that. Like you were trying to get donations rounded up.
yeah. So the series I run with is called Champ Car Endurance Series. And in 2017, I was approached to. They asked if I wanted to sit on the board of directors, and I said, "Yeah, that would be fine." I put my hat in the ring just because I saw that I could really help out the series and do a lot of good there. My strong skill sets in life is connecting with people and really taking. I'm okay being told no, and so what I found was that the series was starting to get a lot, like we were like one of the first ones to broadcast live on YouTube and to have kind of live streaming and all the amateur endurance series. And so I saw really good value there, but they were like, they were only getting like 25 grand for just the series sponsor. And I was like, that is so cheap. And so I was approached in 2017, like, hey, do you want to sit on the board? I said, great. So I think it was June of 2017. I was asked to be on the board, and I just said, hey guys, I'm just here to help out. Can I help with sponsorships? They said, yeah, that'd be great. And so we approached the person that was at the $25,000 level, and they're like, hey, are you okay if we go for a national branded name for the series? And they're like, great, if you can get something, that's fine. If not, we'll be here to whatever. So I started engaging companies in August 2017. By January of 2018, I had a 3-year contract inked with a national brand, TireRack.com, and for a lot more money than $25,000.
Hell yeah.
So that's really helped the series and has kind of brought it to another level on that end. So yeah, I've done things on the back end for the series, along with continuing to race with that series.
So why aren't you running the series yet?
I actually stepped back from the board. 2022 was my last year, and I wanted to focus on my own businesses, and I had family stuff going on, and it was taking up a lot of my time in my life. And being an entrepreneur, I had to focus on other areas in business and make money, and so that's what I want to do. And it was hard on me for 5 years, and so I had to get out of that at that time. So
I was gonna say you really you slowed down your schedule a lot in 2023, didn't you?
yeah, I mean. Yeah, so even 2022 has slowed it down a little bit, but 2023, I was going to go to Road Atlanta in February. That didn't pan out with events in my life. And then we went to the National Corvette Museum down in Bowling Green. Ended up winning that race on Saturday. And then we were supposed to go to Watkins Glen in May and just didn't happen. So we're going to go to Mid Ohio in September and then Road America up in Wisconsin in October. So really looking forward to those races coming up. So.
Did you go to New York Memorial Day?
No, I didn't. I had to cancel it just because, again, with business and stuff, and I got put behind with events in my life earlier this year that the car wasn't ready. Like I hadn't touched the car since it came back from Kentucky, and I'm not going to go up just to do track days anymore. I've done pretty much every major track in the United States that I've wanted to do, and I just don't show up just to go run around. I want to go and compete. So if the car can't be mechanically ready in the garage, whereas I can roll it off the trailer and go do a practice day, then I'm not going to go race because it's just going to waste everyone's time.
Right. And that's, getting there and hauling a car and that big ass truck of yours, that's not cheap, driving from where we're at to New York or Atlanta or anything.
No, exactly. And, you've got me as the car owner and I drive as well, but then I've got another guy who drives pretty much every race with me. And then usually there's 2 seats open and we have a group of friends that I offer those seats to first. And then there's other people outside of our group that I'll offer some other seats to, but those people pay me to drive a car. So it's not good business sense to show up with a car that needs work and that you don't know if it's competitive. And so it just doesn't make sense. And we're all getting older and we all understand like, hey, things happen and life happens and it's not fun to just go show up and maybe do okay. We want to go up and show up, win, or at least be competitive in the top 10 and have a good time. So.
Yeah, I totally understand that. It makes sense. Yeah. So with you slowing down racing, what are you getting into now?
On the car side of things, not much, man. My dad passed away in January, and he was a big motorcycle guy. He went out to Sturgis nine years in a row. I think this would have been his 10th year this year, and he was a big Harley guy. He started out with building a '98 Softail from the ground up, and got that all built up, and then he was like, hey, I want to go. I'm getting bored with this. He enjoyed tinkering with them, getting them to the maximum effort, like the maximum potential they could have. And then he got bored with it because there's nothing left to do. So he's like, he sold that and ended up buying a wrecked Electra Glide. I think it was like a 13 Electra Glide. And I remember him when he showed me the picture. He's like, hey, this is what I bought. I was like, Dad, that looks like a pile of junk. It's like, yeah, it got wrecked or whatever. I'm going to rebuild it. I was like, okay, show me like what you have in mind. And he's like, here's what it's going to look like. And I said, Dad, that's just a Harley Honda Goldwing. And that's all it is. And I said, I hope you're going to have AC and music. And there's like, those are old fogey bikes. And my dad just laughed. He's like, oh, come on, Tyler. Like, no, this thing's going to rip. I said, I don't care, Dad. It looks like an old fogey bike. So needless to say, when he had it done, it was pretty badass. He had it all, I think it was gray and it looked lowered and he had some custom lights and it looked really, really cool with what he did. But he got tired of that, obviously. And I think that's the bike you helped him on, or maybe it's the next one. So then he bought a 2017, I think maybe an Ultra Glide, or you have to help me here.
Road Glide, I believe.
Road Glide. Okay.
It's the one sitting in his garage right now, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So 2017 Road Glide, and he really was like, "Hey, I'm not going to do much this motorcycle. Like, this is my last bike. I'm not going to tinker with it." And then he's like, "Hey, I know you've tuned some cars and stuff. Can you help me tune my bike?" I said, "Oh my gosh, here we go again, Dad. Like, just let it go." Like, he's like, "But I want at least 107 horsepower of this thing." I was like, "All right, whatever." So we started doing tuning and stuff, and he he spent like one summer just tuning it, and I think it was 2 years ago, and he barely made it to like Sturgis that year. He had an oil leak coming back. It was just a mess. He was like, I'm sending it off to someone. We're just going to ride the bike a whole next year. So last summer they got a lot of riding out of it. Went to Sturgis, and then yeah, now it sits in my stepmom's house, my stepmom's garage, not ridden. So I talked to my wife, and my dad. He loved motorcycles. He loved going to the races with me, but we never got to like drive cars together or ride bikes together or anything like that, or even race together. Right? I mean, he was never the driver because he had equilibrium issues and stuff like that. So I was thinking to myself, I said, hey, it's not that I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. I don't trust myself. I don't trust other people on the road. And I know a lot of people get fear of that. But at the end of the day, we're going to go one way or the other, whether I'm riding a motorcycle or I'm at my house or whatever, one way or another, God's going to take us and stuff like that. So I asked my wife, I said, hey, would you be okay if I took my motorcycle test so I could go ride my dad's bike a couple of times a year? And she's like, yeah, I think that'd be fine. Like that'd be great. And I talked to my stepmom. So she's like, yeah, you're more than happy to, ride your dad's bike how often you want. And so I need to schedule my test, but that's kind of the next step. What I want to do is I want to get my motorcycle, license and start riding that big honking Harley. But I got to find time to do that, Nick. So
Yeah, when did you decide which one you want to take? Either the MSF class or that 1 day class?
I don't know because I don't know the difference. So I mean, maybe I need to research a little bit more because I think there was one that's like, well, there's one for like the whole weekend. And like then there's one that you can just do it's like an hour. So I didn't know if like I could actually do the hour one and then still get my license or how that even worked.
Uh, well, I don't know about Ohio because you technically live in Ohio,
Right.
but in Indiana, you don't even have to take that. You can take a little Honda Rebel 250cc up to the BMV and tell them you want to get your test, and they'll take you out, or you want to get your motorcycle endorsement. I think you got to have your permit for a while. You take the test, you get your permit, and you carry that for so long, and then you go up there and they'll come out and tell you to go turn it around in a parking lot, miss this, do that. I've never taken the BMV class. I've taken the MSF class 3 times. I took it the first time when I was 15, and then again when I was 17, and then again with Ashley just here in 2020. But that's the whole weekend class, and you take that, and Friday's like 3 hours in a classroom, Saturday's like all day on a bike, Sunday's half day on a bike, and then you do a written test, and you pass that, you get a little card saying that you passed that. You take that to the BMV and say, hey, I got this, I want my endorsement. They say, okay, cool. You get a new picture taken, and it says, I don't know, I think it says L now or something like that, but it used to say M. You get a little endorsement that says M, and that's it.
Yeah. So I think that I probably end up doing the MSF class just because I probably need to get a little bit comfortable on riding the bike before I get on my dad's big ass Harley. But yeah, man, that's kind of the next step is doing that and getting more kind of easing down on life a little bit. You know, you helped me build the new race car and stuff, which was an awesome experience. And we didn't even get to that. We can get into that a little bit if you want. But yeah, now I just, you go through life and you try to figure out what's important to you. And for me right now is one, being an entrepreneur and making money for my family. Two, spending as much time with my kids. And three, enjoying hobbies and stuff. And I've done enough car racing for now that like I also wanted to tribute to my dad and ride his bike. I mean, I'm gonna hop on that thing once, by the end of the year or not, this year, one way or the other, I think so.
Yeah, I drive by his house every day, and the garage is usually open, and I always look over. I'm like, oh, thing looks so lonely sitting there.
100%. So it needs to be ridden, and I got to figure that out. So that is the next step in my kind of auto and motorcycle life right now. So
Well, yeah, you let me know when you want to take the class, man. I'll take it with you.
for sure, I will. I'll pay your way and we'll do it. So
Cool. Well, you said a couple of times, you're an entrepreneur and all that. What kind of businesses are you getting into?
yeah, so I worked in corporate banking for 13 years, right out of college, and left that in November of 2021. Just was sick of the whole corporate life, and COVID didn't help because I got pigeonholed into like a division I didn't want to be in. But I worked with a lot of small business owners throughout the years, and I was really good at analyzing their financials and telling them how they could improve their businesses. I wouldn't tell them how to run their businesses, but just how to improve it, right? And so I was able to do that quite a bit, and was able to get a lot of clients on the banking side of things. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to go into consulting and stuff. So I started doing some consulting for some people in November of 2021, and then really ramped it up here in January, February, March of this past year. And I've got a couple opportunities. So I work with currently small business owners who hate financial numbers, but I learned to let them love the financial numbers for the way I present it to them. So I really help small business owners with maximizing their profitabilities and efficiencies within their companies. So
So
there's that.
that's
Go
a
ahead.
long-winded way of saying that you help with consulting and stuff.
Yeah, when you hear consultant, you think of, hey, I'm going to give you this binder and this is how you should fix your company, right? The
Mm.
way I do it is, hey, I'm going to work with you in your company. I'm going to go through your financial statements. I'm going to go through all your costs or your top line revenue, what you're doing, and I'm going to find your issues that you might be feeling within your company but don't know why. And I'm going to fix those problems for you and essentially help better your company. So a lot of business owners, I feel, that get really busy or comfortable in the position they're in, and sometimes they lose grip of costs or they lose grip of diversifying their sales, and then the bottom drops out, and then they're stuck with losses and trying to claw back. So a way to help prevent that and help businesses do that. So that's where I can really do a lot of damage and help with a lot of people. When I say damage, like really effectively help someone's company be a lot better.
Right, right. I got you. So that's been going good for you, though.
Yeah, it's been going great. Signed a couple new clients. I got a couple out there, and so yeah, trying to get that nationwide as well. The other thing I've been doing is back in 2013. So when I worked when I lived in Fort Wayne and I worked for a small community bank, we would go to the bar every Friday and we'd get drinks. It was just what we did. I met a group of friends there. They were the racer guys I would hang out with. I didn't have anyone else really that I knew in town. So we just go to the bars and Friday night and drink and have beers. And my friend was like, "Hey man, like you're into banking. You should look at this Bitcoin stuff." I'm like, "Okay," like no clue what it is. And so I started researching a little bit, and like he kept saying, "Hey man, this is gonna go pretty high. Like, did you do your research?" So I'm like, "Yeah, I've researched it." He's like, "You started buying yet?" I said, "I haven't bought yet." Blah blah blah. So at the end of it, like I started buying in little chunks, and Bitcoin back then was like 600 to 750 bucks. And like I started just buying little chunks here and there, here and there. And then my wife and I, we got married in 2017, and Bitcoin gets to like 20 grand. And I was like, "Hey, should we sell this?" She's like, no, like let's hold on to it a little bit. And then COVID happens and it drops to 3 grand. She's like, "I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "It's fine, whatever, blah, blah, blah." And then we had like the last bull run, like where it tops out at 64. Like we sold most of our stuff at 58,000 and stuff. And so like I did a whole bunch of that stuff, and I started getting into like day trading and trading stocks and understanding like stuff like that and equities. And I really wanted to start working on that because I'm like, hey, this could be another way of getting out of my corporate job because I was sick of it. And I was like, I am really not like analytical and I can see patterns and stuff like that. So I started doing a lot of that stuff, and I got into NFTs as well. And Yeah. So now I do a lot of day trading, crypto and stuff as well. And so that's another business that I do. And I started a podcast and a newsletter on that I'm looking to monetize. So it's just, all these passions that I have with helping small business owners and building different funnels of income I'm trying to do. So
So yeah, what's your podcast? Plug that shit.
it's the Torque Trading Podcast, and it's where I interview ordinary people who became extraordinary traders. It's going through stories of regular individuals like you and I and understanding what they did before trading, how they got into trading, what wins they had in trading, what failures, how they got a mentor, and really dive into the personalities of these people and to show people like, hey, if you just get started, you can do this too. And yeah, it takes a lot of work and a lot of discipline, but if you really want to set yourself apart, like it's possible. And that's what I want to bring to the table is through the podcast. And then I've got a newsletter. If you go to Torg Trading, TORG trading.com, you'll see all this stuff. The newsletter goes out once a week and it goes through all the macro economic news for the week. And it focuses on, I go through like the metals data, like gold and silver. I go through energy, natural gas, oil. And then I go through the dollar and show what all those are doing, like what I'm looking at for the week. And then I go through kind of some crypto news, and then I go through the Bitcoin and Ethereum chart, and then also some other altcoin charts as well. So I also do that to help people who don't want to get into like the very micro of trading to where they can just read the newsletter and it takes them 10 minutes and they can get a scope on what's going to happen for the week.
So yeah, I think I read the first edition of your newsletter, and it was above my my head. You got to dumb that shit down, man, for people like me.
Yeah, that's why I try to give just targets on prices that I'm looking at, and this is not financial advice at all. I'm not an advisor. I'm not licensed or anything like that. It's just, I'm in the charts every day, and I just want to help people, like, because it's so funny. Because back in I think it was 2022, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, like Shiba, should I buy Shiba? Should I do this?" I'm like, you know, no, you shouldn't, and this is why. And still, people bought it. And people kept asking, like, should I buy crypto now? When should I buy it? So I'm like, I'm just going to do a newsletter. Instead of giving like individual answers, everyone can go to my newsletter and find out like what's in my mind. I don't give all the secrets out and stuff like that. I still keep a lot of stuff to myself, but it's a way for you to understand what I'm looking at in the market. So
Yeah, I know. I hit you up a couple of times asking about IPOs and shit like that.
yeah, I remember that. So
So yeah, where did you get the name? It's ever since you brought that out, I was like, what the fuck is Torg?
yeah, so the company, my company, the parent company of all my businesses is called the One Room Group. And sorry to get like religious and stuff on your podcast. I don't know how many religious people you have listening, but
Oh, me, brother. Yeah, you know.
so I'll get it real simple for people. So when my wife and I had our second child, we had a lot of complications in the hospital. She was past 40 weeks. My wife got really worried. We go to the hospital. We have this plan that we want to do. It's, COVID season, blah, blah, blah. We have to do all these stupid COVID tests and all this other stuff. And we have our plan that we want to do. It worked last time with our oldest. And this nurse just didn't want anything to do with it. And we're not on the same page at all. So it gets to be about 6:00 at night, and there's a nurse shift change, and they bring in this nurse that totally agrees to our plan. She understands what we want to do, and we like are in stuck labor. And so like we finally have a great delivery. Everything like went not as planned, but as good as it could. So I started thinking to myself, hey, what happens if people, even business owners in their life, can get their whole team together, right? Can get their accountant, their lawyer, everyone in one room, like even like their key employees in one room and get all on the same page, how much more powerful can their companies be? So that brought me to be like, okay, that's one room. So I go back into my Bible and I talk to my pastor at the time, and we're starting to throw stuff back and forth. And we go back to Jesus in the upper room and talking to the disciples, his last supper, washing the feet. There's other events that happen in the upper room as well. So it all ties into the one room group where it's like, hey, if you get everyone in one room on the same page, whether the one room's on a newsletter, the one room's on a podcast, the one room is on the internet, whatever it is, then how much more powerful can your life be, in that aspect? So that's kind of how I created the one room group. And then I shortened it because I was online a lot in Discords during the NFT season to Torg. And that's just kind of stuck as my nickname online. So
Yeah, it's easier to say than the one room group.
yeah, exactly. And so it just goes way easier, and it's easier to brand and stuff like that. So, but I think in my opinion, it's a good meaning behind the name. So
Gotcha. So you with your podcast, have you gotten it off just YouTube, or is it still only YouTube?
yeah, so right now it's only on YouTube because I've got a backlog of about 3 episodes I still need to edit, and I've just been so dang busy I haven't edited those. So I've got 2 episodes up, or actually 3 episodes. I split the second episodes into 2 parts because it was powerful that I wanted to do 2 parts, but it's only on YouTube. Once I probably release these next 3 on YouTube, I'll probably get all those into MP3 and be able to just upload those. And what I wanted to do is release them like once a week on Spotify, or do that Buzzsprout you talked to me about, and
Yep.
just start really getting that backlog so I didn't run out of stuff to do. So I've got another interview coming up this week, and then I've got a couple more as well. So I want to just have that backlog of like 5 to 10 to be able to just start hammering them into Spotify and Apple. And it also gives me time to, like, if I want to change the name, because right now it's called the Torque Trading Podcast, and that doesn't really have a good name to, like, who would look that up on Spotify. So I don't know what I want to do there. So it's just still kind of out there. So I'm just kind of building the content out at this point.
See, that's why you're so much smarter than me. Like you wanted to have a good backlog of content and shit, and I'm like, well, fuck, it's Monday. I got to release a podcast on Wednesday. I should probably start asking people if they, would want to record one here in the next 2 hours or so.
Yeah, I think the backlog is good, but I think always, if you can always take something away from every episode, like, how can you get yourself better as an interviewer? How can you reformat it? Like, you're always getting better, then I think you're improving, and the followers will come. So
So how do you find your guests? I know I texted you this the other day. How do you find your guests for your podcast? Because that's where I'm gonna hit a wall here before too long.
yeah, I mean, and this is kind of where I'm at, is that I'm in a whole bunch of Discords and groups and stuff with people, because there's a lot of crypto, or they're not crypto. There's a lot of trading podcasts out there with equities and foreign exchange people, and these big name people who've made millions and millions of dollars and stuff like that. But they've done it all through equities, or they've done it through like a firm and stuff like that. No, there's never been really a podcast that's interviewed people from crypto or NFTs or anything like that. And so that's really what I wanted to do. And so I started just reaching out to people that I knew, like, that had made quite a bit of money in these realms and I knew were successful. And so I started out with them. And then I just started DMing people on Twitter, because all the action in crypto happens on Twitter. So I just started DMing like people through there, or like emailing them through their websites. And there's a couple, I'm super excited because I already got one like pretty influential person recorded. And then I've got another one coming up this week that I'm recording. And then there's a couple of people that are like, they've got like 80 to 100,000 followers on Twitter that are like, hey, definitely would love to come on your podcast. I think it's a great idea, but I'm just so busy because recording an hour with you takes away from an hour of creating my own content. So they said, why don't you build the content? And once we see that you're steadily doing that, then we'll come on. So I've got like a whole bunch of people. So it's just like, in my opinion, having that value statement of what the podcast is about and giving that value out to the listeners, you'll find the people that think it's cool and interesting as long as you build the content out. Because there's a lot of people that start these podcasts are like, hey, we're going to do this for like the next year, right? And then they fizzle out after a month, right? Or whatever. And so I think it's just literally, even like your idols that you find in motorcycles, DM them, tell them what you're doing, tell them what you want to do, and just whatever. Like any influential bike person, like I would have just email them or spend the time to like figure out a way to interact with them to see if they want to do some, give some time to you for the recording of the podcast. So I think that's just been my way of doing it.
So yeah, I commented on a guy's YouTube video the other day about getting on the podcast, and he said, "What the hell did he say? Something like, oh, that's interesting. Thanks for the invite. Let's keep in touch about it," or something like that. So I don't know. Like you said earlier, you have never been afraid of hearing the word no, and that's part of the reason why you've gone so far in your life as you have. Like why you've been successful in pretty much fucking everything. But I I am afraid of hearing no. I hate I hate rejection.
Well, and why? I mean, I'm going to turn the tables on you. Like, why is that? I mean,
I don't
because in
know.
my opinion, yeah, I mean,
It shouldn't be because I mean, if they say no, I'm not any worse off than what I was before, right?
exactly. I mean, okay, you say no, and then if they say no, follow up, say, okay, what is the reason? If they don't even give you a reason, why don't you want to come on this podcast? And maybe they say, hey, I see that you only have a couple episodes recorded. Maybe I'll come in when you have 10 episodes recorded, right? So then it gives you kind of some fuel to go find some other people. And I've really found it to where when you're starting a new podcast, it's the people that are amateurs or that are not really known in these worlds that do really good stuff. So like James, who you had on your podcast,
Mm-hmm.
like like I don't know how well he's known in the motorcycle world, but this dude is like tattoo artist, food truck owner, has a ton of bikes, like super good content. Like if a podcast like yours like takes off, like he's gonna get some other recognition. But it's like some people that like are doing good work in the motorcycle world right now that aren't really known, like that are working regular jobs, like they want to talk to people. They want to tell their story. They want to give advice to amateurs and new people so they don't screw up and they can save times. Like those are the people I'd be looking for. Like your Facebook groups, like, hey, anyone with an interesting story or anyone that wants to come and tell their story on my podcast, come do it. Like I think it's just great. And then the other thing I did was I have a Google form where I send to people who are interested that it picks their time, like they pick their time slot, the best way, best time for them. And then I give them like 5 bullet points so I get to know them a little bit more. Like you can say, hey, like your first question, like, how'd you get into motorcycles? Right. And then give you like 5 bullet points on how you get into motorcycles. Like, do you have a mentor in motorcycles? Blah, blah, blah. Like, do you like engine work? Do you like painting? Blah, blah, blah. Like, what's your expertise? And then you can start going into all these little different realms of the motorcycle world to start giving value back to these people who are like, hey, I don't know how to get into custom paint jobs. And this Facebook group I just joined, Custom Paint Jobs for Beginners, isn't going to give me shit. So I'm going to go to the AB podcast, right? And I'm going to listen to these couple episodes by people who are giving techniques or giving understanding how can I get into this stuff and get value that way. So.
See, I think you just discovered your next business venture, life coaching.
No,
That was
I will not life coach.
that
I will not
was
life
good
coach.
shit, bud. No, that was really good shit. I love it. It was great.
Yeah, I just, I think too many people get so narrow focused on the now or the short term. And if you zoom out just a little bit, right, and you say, hey, I'm going to do this for 12 months, or I'm going to do this for 6 months, and I'm going to do the same thing for 6 months every week or every 2 weeks, right? And let's see what consistency can do. And it's amazing how far that takes away, right? So let's say, like, I know you've been sober for over a year, right? That didn't happen overnight, right? It's like, hey, the first week sucked, right? But once you got through the first 30 days, it was better. Once you got through the first 60 days, it's better. Now it's easy to just not drink, right? It's easy to be like, go around with people as you see beers or whatever. It's just, your life just kind of got a little bit better just taking that one vice out of your life. So I think if people can learn to do that little by little, and it can come to finances, right? If you want to save a little bit of money, what does saving an extra $10 a week look like? What does saving an extra, $50 a week look like? Can I cut out my Starbucks? Can I cut out my Jimmy John's? Can I do this to save for better and better my life? It's just people just have to have the mind. It's all about mindset for people and zooming out a little bit instead of looking so narrow term. Because right now in America and right now in life, people are so want the satisfaction of everything now, and technology has done that to us. Everything's done that to us. So instead
I
of
blame
people seeing, go ahead.
I blame Amazon.
Yeah, exactly.
2 day shipping. Everyone wants shit. Within 2 days.
Well, 2 day shipping. When you have breaking news, it goes instantly to your phone as a pop up, right?
Yep.
I mean, everything is instant nowadays. So, but making money is consistently or changing your life consistently doesn't happen overnight. So that's my thoughts.
No, I totally agree.
So,
Well, hell yeah, brother. We just hit an hour and close to it. So I think that's a good point to stop on.
all right, that sounds good, man. Well, thanks for giving me the time.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. Crank Yanker Racing. You haven't posted a video on that in what, 2-3 years?
Man, it's been a while, but Crank Anchors Racing, that's the race team. Yeah, I always used to like upload the videos and stuff from our races, but
You used to
in a
live
while.
stream it.
I used to live stream it as well. Yeah, and man, being a one person owner and getting the car ready and stuff like that, and then you get to the track and unload it, like the last thing you want to do is just get all this electronic stuff hooked up. So I just we still stream for the drivers in the car and stuff so they can have video. But yeah, I need to get back to doing some of that other stuff. It just takes time and again mindset, right? So
Right.
I kind of got a little lazy with it. So
All right. Well, Crank Yankers Racing, Torg Trading. I'll get all the links and put them down in the show notes so people can find you if you're not a financial advisor, but if they want to subscribe to your newsletter and all that, they'll be able to find you.
100%, man. Yeah, I'm willing to help anyone. Anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to reach out. Feel free to reach out to me, or if people want to see any subjects on like trading or equities markets or anything like that in the newsletter, I'm more than happy for feedback. No one's given me feedback on that thing yet. I always ask for feedback, but I've got like 26 subscribers now, so I think I'm doing okay. It's something right, and it's like all organic, and it's not like of the 26, I think maybe only like maybe 4 or 5 are family. I don't have like 20 family, so I think it's okay. So
And that's for the newsletter.
yeah.
Well, nice. Yeah, I'll post that shit out there. And I'm not real sure, with the Venn diagram where the circles intersect on crypto day traders and motorcycle enthusiasts, but I'm sure that there's some out there.
If not, I think a lot of people, and this is my thoughts. I'll give you some little free thoughts here. I think starting next year, you're going to see a lot more crypto stuff out there. More people are going to start getting excited again, and you're going to start seeing a run on the Bitcoin happen again. So I think a lot more people. Hopefully, people will do some research now and be able to get set up for next year and stuff like that. So I go through a couple of that stuff in the newsletter, previous newsletter, and I'm trying to give people a little bit more info to kind of research. So yeah, I think if anything, people have heard of it because of all the mayhem over the last couple of years on it, and hopefully people can help improve their lives with it. So
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, man. Anything else?
No, I think that's it, bud. Like I said, appreciate you coming on, man. Let me know when you want to go take the MSF class, and we'll sign up and go do that shit.
Sounds good. Yeah, it'll be. Let's do it soon because summer's gonna be over before we know it. But yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it probably here in probably July. I'll look at some dates and we'll get it all scheduled, and then maybe we can do like a post podcast on that experience or something.
Oh yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, do something like that. Maybe we could. Maybe you can do some little clips from the. See, I'm giving you some ideas. Do some clips from when we're there and stuff. I think it'd be fun to do, and some good. I think it'd be some good content for the podcast. Just like, what does it take? What does this look like from someone who's never done it, and for people who are interested in getting, interested riders. So
Hell yeah. That sounds good to me.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
All right, you too, buddy.
All right. See ya.